Some disappearances aren't accidents, they're invitations. Campgrounds, forest trails, quiet clearings, all places where people vanish without a trace. The stories you're about to hear aren't just about getting lost. They're about slipping somewhere else, somewhere with rules. And the ones who break them, they don't just disappear, they're replaced. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more scary stories. This story was sent to me by someone named Ava. She and her girlfriend, Riley, went on a weekend hiking trip in the Cascade Range, and what they experienced never made the news, never hit Reddit, and never got talked about again. Until now. It started as a spontaneous idea. They'd been dating a year, both worked stressful jobs, and Ava had booked them a remote Airbnb cabin near a lesser-known trailhead. They left their phones off, packed light, and hit the trail around noon. The hike was beautiful at first. Thick pine trees, wildflowers, birdsong, miles of winding dirt that seemed untouched. But somewhere around hour 4, the trees changed. Everything got too quiet. No birds, no bugs, just wind. And that's when they saw it. A break in the trees, a clearing, and in it, 6 abandoned lodges, all lined in a semicircle, cabin-sized, made of rotted wood and rusted tin. The windows were boarded up. The door stood open, like they'd been waiting. And the ground? Completely dead. No grass, no moss, just blackened soil like something had burned the life away. They should have turned around. But Riley, curious, walked into the clearing. Ava followed. That's when the air changed. Heavy, stale, and the sun above them, bright as noon. Even though Ava's watch said 1:04 a.m., they explored one of the lodges. Inside was dust, rotted furniture, cobwebs. But in the third one, they found a small bed with an old leather diary sitting neatly on the pillow. Inside the front cover was a single sentence, scratched in frantic handwriting. If you're reading this, the sun won't set for you. Beneath it were 5 rules. Don't enter the 6th lodge. It's not empty. If you hear footsteps, pretend you don't. The sun is watching. Don't look at it directly. At 2 a.m., cover your ears. One of you must stay behind. The other gets out. They stared at the page in silence. Riley tried to laugh it off, called it a sick joke. But Ava had this gut feeling, deep animal panic. They needed to leave. They stepped outside, expecting twilight. But the sun still hung high. Not just bright, wrong, still, like it wasn't rising or falling, just stuck. Ava's skin crawled. Every instinct screamed they weren't just lost. They weren't on the same map anymore. Then they heard it. Footsteps, crunching leaves, dragging slowly. They turned toward the tree line. Nothing there. The air felt like glass. Rule 2, pretend you don't hear them. Ava grabbed Riley's hand and whispered, "Don't react." They kept walking, slow and silent, hearts hammering. The footsteps followed, always just behind, never catching up. Back at the edge of the clearing, the trail was gone, vanished, like it had never existed. Ava's watch ticked to 2 a.m., and the moment it did, a deep ringing began. Not a bell, not a machine, something natural, like the scream of the earth itself. A low, grinding hum that shook their teeth. They both dropped to the ground, hands over their ears. Ava could feel her eardrums vibrating. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. When they stood up, Riley's nose was bleeding. Ava noticed something worse. Her own shadow was missing. Not shorter, not misplaced. Gone. The sun was still overhead, still unmoving. And the 6th lodge? Its door was now closed. They ran back to the diary. New writing had appeared beneath the last rule. Choose. Now Riley looked at her. "We're not doing that, we both leave." But the sky started to flicker, like static, and one by one, the other lodges began to rot. Wood splitting, roofs caving in, walls slumping like wet paper. All except the sixth. They tried running into the woods again. It didn't work. They circled back to the same clearing, every direction, like the trees were folding in. Riley screamed in frustration, threw a rock at the sun. It didn't fall. It stuck in the sky, hovering. Like gravity didn't work here the same way. Ava turned to her and said, "I'll stay." But Riley shook her head. "Number you found the rules. You get out." They argued. The sun blinked. Once. And then the sixth lodge door creaked open. Riley kissed her, then walked toward it. Ava screamed, tried to follow, but something stopped her. An invisible wall, cold, electric. The moment Riley stepped into the lodge, the sun dimmed. Just a little. Then the trees parted. The trail returned. Ava ran. She never saw Riley again. She made it back to the cabin, to the world. Sunset greeted her like a warm hand. She still has the diary, but now it only has one sentence inside. It doesn't forget the one who left. Every summer, on the anniversary of that hike, Ava gets a sunburn. Even if she stays inside, even if it rains. And sometimes, just for a second, her shadow disappears. If you ever find a clearing in the woods where the grass is dead and the sun never sets, turn around. Because some places weren't built for night. This story was sent to me by a man who only identified himself as Jacob. I've changed some details, but the rest, it's exactly what he claimed happened to him. Last October, Jacob took his wife and 2 kids on a weekend camping trip. They stayed just outside of Ash Pines, a forested area near the state line that hadn't seen many visitors since the 90s. There were rumors about people going missing, but nothing official. Just campfire stories and warnings from locals. Jacob didn't care. He found the place quiet, peaceful, cheap. That Friday, he packed up the car and drove the family out. The first night was uneventful, a little cold, but nothing unusual. Then Saturday came. He had just finished making coffee near the fire pit when he realized something was wrong. No laughter from the tent, no voices. He walked over, expecting to see his kids still sleeping. But the tent was empty. No signs of struggle, no blood. Just their blankets, flattened. Their shoes, still there. He called for his wife. No answer. He walked the perimeter, thinking maybe they were collecting firewood. That's when he noticed it. The trail was gone. The path they had driven up. It was just forest now. No gravel, no tire marks, no road. He panicked, sprinted in every direction he could think of. Everywhere looked the same. Ash trees, gray and cracked, twisting toward a sky that had turned the color of bruised flesh. He shouted until his throat was raw. And that's when he found the signpost. Old, rotten, half buried in the earth. One word carved into the wood, return, and nailed to it, flapping in the wind, was a page torn from a children's notebook. 5 rules, scrawled in uneven handwriting. If you want to see them again, stay within the dead ring. The trees outside aren't real. Don't speak your children's names. It hears them. If you hear laughter that isn't theirs, plug your ears. When you see your wife, ask her what she made for dinner last Thursday. If she gets it wrong, run. Dig beneath the ash tree with the black rope. Only then will you understand. Jacob didn't know what to believe. The forest seemed to breathe behind him. The shadows flickered even without wind. And then he heard it. His daughter, laughing. Except it wasn't her laugh. It was hollow, stretched too long, echoed in ways that didn't match the trees. He covered his ears. Rule 3. Then silence. When he uncovered them again, the trail was back, but twisted. It led in a slow spiral back to the clearing, to the middle of the dead ring, where the soil was black and no grass grew. Hours passed. He didn't sleep, just watched the edge of the clearing. And then he saw her, his wife, wearing the same sweatshirt she'd worn that morning, walking slowly, like she'd just woken up. She smiled at him. "Jake, I was looking for you." He froze. Rule 4. "What did you make for dinner last Thursday?" She paused, smiled again. "Mac and cheese." He turned and ran, because it had been stew. And the thing wearing her skin wasn't breathing. He followed the inner ring of trees until he found it. The ash tree. Tall, split at the top. A black frayed rope tied loosely around the trunk. He dropped to his knees and began digging with his bare hands. The earth was soft, too soft, like it had been dug up before. A few inches down, his fingers hit something solid. A box. Inside was a photo. His family, standing next to the tent. But they were blurry, faded, like the ink was running away. Underneath the photo was one final message. "They're not gone. You are." Jacob sat there for hours, shaking. The sky never changed. The sun never rose. The night never fell. He was stuck. A passenger in a pocket of reality, meant for people who stepped too far off the trail and never came back. To this day, he claims he still walks the ring. Sometimes he hears his wife call out. Sometimes his kids laugh, always a second too long. But he never answers, because he knows the rules. He keeps the paper folded in his jacket pocket, even now, waiting for the day someone else slips in. Someone else who's willing to dig. So if you ever go hiking near ash pines and you find an empty campsite with a photo half buried in the dirt, don't stay. Because some places remember the names of the missing. And if you speak them out loud, something else will answer. This story was sent to me anonymously. All I'll say is this. If an old summer camp ever invites you back for one final weekend, don't go. Some places were never meant to be reopened. Back in 2009, I worked a summer job as a junior counselor at a place called Camp Stillwater. It was your typical backwoods camp, rickety cabins, a murky lake, sketchy power lines. But the staff didn't talk much about what had happened there the previous summers. 3 disappearances. All kids. No explanation. Still, management decided to host one last farewell weekend. Just 6 campers and 6 staff, all trusted returners. No phones, no press. Just one last toast to Stillwater before the land got sold. I should have never gone back. The first 2 days felt normal. Campfires, canoe rides, the usual mosquito bites. But the third night, something changed. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to silence. Not peaceful silence, the kind that presses in on your ears. No bugs, no breeze, just stillness. I stepped outside my cabin, expecting to see stars or at least fog off the lake. Instead, I saw nothing. The trees around the camp had shifted, taller, closer together, darker. The cabins were still there, but wrong, leaning, warped, like reflections in water. Even the camp sign at the front gate now read, "Camp Still Was." I checked my watch. It was stuck at 3:33 a.m. That's when I found the first rule. Etched into the doorframe of the mess hall. Deep, desperate carvings like someone had clawed it out. If you're reading this, you slipped. This isn't your camp anymore. Follow the rules. It's the only way back. Below that were 5 rules, barely legible. Don't follow voices into the woods. Do not open a door unless it has a handle. If the cabins change position, do not acknowledge it. Don't step into your reflection. When the bell rings, choose one cabin and hide. Do not leave until it stops. My flashlight flickered. Somewhere in the trees, I heard whispering. My name. Rule 1. I backed into the mess hall, locked the door. When I looked out the window, the path outside was different. It now curved around the lake the wrong way. One of the girls, Lily, walked into view. She looked panicked. But as she got closer, I realized her face wasn't moving. Mouth hanging open, no blinking. And the wrong eyes. Just glossy black pits where her pupil should have been. She walked past without looking in, like she didn't see me at all, then vanished behind a tree. I blinked, and the mess hall had no windows. The cabins began to shift every hour. You'd go outside and the layout would change. The lake moved. The flagpole disappeared. A trail would suddenly lead into a wall of trees, or a second version of the same trail. The others started disappearing. First Marcus, then Jenna, gone without sound or warning. Only Lily remained. And even she didn't seem real anymore. Sometimes I'd look at her and her shirt would change colors. Her voice echoed slightly, too long. I stopped talking to her after the 3rd time I saw her standing in 2 places at once. The 4th night, I saw my own reflection in the lake. Except I was still on the dock. But the reflection smiled and stepped forward. The water didn't ripple. Rule 4, don't step into your reflection. I ran. Didn't stop until the bell rang. A deep, rusted bong echoing from nowhere. Once, twice. Every tree in the forest seemed to lean toward the sound. I remembered Rule 5. I sprinted to the nearest cabin, one with a handle, and slammed the door shut behind me. The bell rang 12 more times. With each chime, the floor shook. Shadows passed beneath the door. Something sniffed at the threshold. Then silence. I waited a full hour before leaving. Eventually, I reached the edge of camp again. This time the sign read, "Camp still's no people, no sun, just gray, endless gray." I dropped to my knees, gave up. Then I saw it, scratched into the dirt beneath the sign. "You made it. Forget what you saw. Never come back." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and the birds started chirping. I woke up in my bunk to morning sunlight and the smell of pancakes. Everyone was there, alive, laughing, talking like nothing happened, like the weekend had just started. But when I checked the mess hall door frame, the 5 rules were still there. I left that day, didn't wait for goodbyes. When I got home, I searched Camp Stillwater. No results, no news, no sales record. The land was marked as forest preserve since 1998. I'd been 17. It was 2009. But the closure notice was from 1999. Some places don't shut down the way they should. Some places keep running for the ones who don't know they've slipped. And if you ever wake up in a place that feels familiar, but not quite right, find the rules. Because the moment you question where you are, it already knows.